Hey guys, Pat Ryarchy here, also known as the Patriarchy. All hail the Patriarchy, well into 2017. Goddamn Buzzfeed. They just can't help themselves. They really can't. Alright, so this is a really shitty article, and I'm not going to go over the whole thing because it is so indulgent and overlong. And I'm sick of these articles. It's so... See, one thing I like to do that a lot of the other channels don't do, and I don't blame them for this, they look at the stuff they do, like the articles or the videos and all that, and then they take the points they want to look at, and then they edit it together and make it really concise. It's a good way to do a video. Gets your points across and stuff. I like to go through like the whole article or the entire video, like from start to finish, and talk about every detail. You know, so you see me going through it, you know, I'm not misrepresenting it. You're getting every word. You're getting my interpretation of it. You don't have to go do the homework yourself. You don't have to go read the article and then come back and make sure I'm not lying to you. Because a lot of the time it's like, yeah, please go look at the article to make sure I'm not lying. And, you know, I just like to show you, like, here, this is what I'm doing. But the problem with a lot of these social justice warrior articles and stuff like that is that they're so long, like on Everyday Feminism or Buzzfeed or Huffington Post. It's just somebody that's writing on and on and on and not making a point, and it drives you crazy. And I hate reading it because I've read this thing like 4 times and then I have to read it again. So I'm just not going to do it. I'm going to give you the cliff notes on this article, and sadly, yes, you guys are going to have to go click it to see if I'm telling you the truth, because I don't want to go through this crap. Basically, this guy wrote an article about why he's upset that brown men are being represented now in film and TV, like Master of None, Aziz Ansari's show, and this movie coming out, The Big Sick, which is getting like rave reviews. It's probably going to be an Oscar film. But, okay, he's upset that they star, I think he says Homecoming King. He's upset that these brown guys, comedians and stuff, are dating white women, or getting with white women in these shows and not challenging the norm, why they're not being like homosexual, why they're not dating black women or brown women. A lot of these shows, like Aziz Ansari dates a white girl, and The Big Sick, his character, in real life, his wife is white, and it's their story, the script's based off their life, but the writer doesn't seem to give a shit about that. So, stuff like, while projects like The Big Sick, Master of None, and Homecoming King offer welcome depiction of brown Muslim men in love, the characters pursue white women at the expense of women of color. So there's just tons of paragraphs. I don't know if he was getting paid per word, but it's just, he basically just gives you a bunch of synopsis on the shows. Like, he tells you what The Big Sick's about. It's about a couple that's it's a kind of a multicultural story. Like, he gets with the white girl and he has to hide it from his family, I think, because his family's religious, and it kind of plays with that comedically. And it's supposed to be like a romantic comedy made in like a Woody Allen way. Judd Apatow produced it. I haven't seen it. I've seen Master of None. I really like it. And they point out in the first episode of Master of None, he actually flirts with a black girl, and then the black girl, he loses her number. It's a tragic moment. It's a whole parody of The Bicycle Thief, or an homage, I guess. Then later on in Master of None, he starts dating an Italian woman, and she points out, like, he points out, sorry, I'm usually used to feminists writing these articles, women. He's pointing out that Aziz starts dating a pretty skinny white woman with a really nice figure, and it's cliche Hollywood stuff. It's like, okay, so you see him wanting to date a black girl, he loses her number, and then he meets an Italian chick, and this is somehow problematic, basically. Before we get into this entirely, let's just say this is obviously stupid because there's context. The one story's about his life, so of course that's true. And Aziz Ansari is writing about his life too. So beyond that point, also seeing white people with brown people's a great thing for movies. Seeing couples of different colors, including white people, which is the majority of this country, by the way. These are American films. That's awesome. I know you want to see 2 Muslim people or, 2 Indian people as lovers in a movie or show. I can get that, but that's not the stories these guys want to tell. And they're blaming it on the Woody Allen culture thing. Woody Allen always cast Jews, and it was always just white people in his movies and stuff like that because that was his life. They think it's racist. Say it's racist. Like, no, Woody Allen lives in New York. It's not he doesn't think black people are inferior, you moron. It's a freaking Jewish guy. He doesn't sit around and think about, like, he literally, his wife is Asian, by the way. Woody Allen's married to an Asian. Oh, son uses daughter, but his wife is Asian. Woody Allen, he has Asian kids. The dude's a Jewish guy with Asian kids. I'm pretty sure he's not that racist. He just lives in that part of New York where there's a lot of white people that are Jewish. I mean, that was his life. He grew up in these Jewish neighborhoods and stuff, so he tells those stories. Those are the stories he tells. It's like Martin Scorsese. He tells stories from his point of view. Quentin Tarantino tells his stories. Bergman. I mean, it's what it is. Black filmmakers, Spike Lee, make black films. You're wanting these guys to make films the way you want them to be dictated. You're like, I want the Indian guy to do an all-Indian show. Well, that's not his job. That's not his life. Aziz Ansari, that probably wasn't his life. He probably grew up dating white girls. So that's what he knows. It's him being part of a culture and mixing these things together. He's showing you the different sides. It's like anyone who writes and directs something, they have to go off what they know. It could be challenging for him, but it may come off unorganic. It would come off false if he tried to talk about those things, and he actually couldn't. Anyway, they talk about a recent New York Times profile. Producer Judd Apatow explains that The Big Sick had to be the perfect script to get funding. Though it's directed by comedy scene veteran Michael Showalter from Stella and Wet Hot American Summer, Apatow suggests that because the romantic comedy focuses on the experience of an immigrant Muslim comedian in love, it breaks certain rules of the genre, and that therefore was harder to sell. Namely, like only a few Apatow-produced films before it, Bridesmaids, Trainwreck, The Big Sick doesn't center around a white guy. Well, Bridesmaids and Trainwreck center around white chicks. So who cares? Meanwhile, in his own New York Times profile published earlier this month, Aziz Ansari tells the interview, when you think of the star of a movie or TV show, you don't think of someone that looks like me. No! I want to be on the TV shows too! That's I picture Aziz Ansari just all the time. Like, no! I just want to be on the show. And indeed, for nearly a century, Asian men in Hollywood have been primarily depicted as the antithesis of the ideal man, as meek and strange, almost never attractive and sexy. Muslim men are rarely seen on screen at all. That's because they're a very, very, very low population of this country. I mean, are they even like 3%? There's not enough Muslim people here. Why the fuck would you cast Muslim? It doesn't make any sense. I mean, people are like, oh, that's racist. It's like, no, not really. How many Muslim actors are there when they can get some British actor for nothing? You know how cheap Brits are? Sorry. It's just kind of a price thing. Why cast a Muslim guy when you can cast like a British guy for nothing? And yeah. Sorry. But anyway, as Apatow alludes to, there are some very familiar things about these scripts on the point Aziz's full quote in the New York Times is illustrating. When you think of the star of a movie, well, we already read that. Though it's true that Woody Allen looks a lot different from Clark Gable or Brad Pitt, 40 years after Annie Hall, it's actually become pretty commonplace to see quirky, straight, white men like him as romantic heroes. And they go into about Woody Allen and stuff, and they talk about shows like Love, and a lot of these shows now that have quirky guys that are sexy, and Big Bang Theory, and all that bullshit. Okay, certainly the reality of having men of color in the writer's room and the inclusion of the perspective of women makes a project like Master of None or The Big Sick different from Midnight in Paris, not to mention the fact that neither Aziz nor Nanjiani, I think maybe, Nanjiani have ever been accused of abuse. Oh, fuck you. Oh, let's slam Woody Allen. Midnight in Paris is a wonderful film about nostalgia and life and literature and fandom and your life in perspective. Oh, it's about a white guy with his white girlfriend in Paris. Fuck you. Midnight in Paris is one of my favorite movies the last 10 years. Oh, Woody Allen's a white guy making a movie. I love that they have to throw a thing in there about the assault thing, abuse. It's like, what does that have to do with the movie, though? Where's your Roman Polanski article? Alright, so they're all able to fall in the footsteps of black men like Chris Rock, who mentors Aziz and is cited by Minhaj as a hero, as well as South Asian folks like Russell Peters and Mindy Kaling. Those influences of writers make a difference. Take, for instance, Master of None's Thanksgiving, directed by Melina Matsoukas and co-written by Lena Wathi, about her experiences coming out to your family as a queer black woman, a storyline which veers almost entirely away from the traditional romantic comedy script and doesn't feature any white people at all, is probably never going to happen on Love. Who cares if it happens on Love? Watch Twin Peaks David Lynch shit right now. It's like Eraserhead. It's fucking crazy what was on last night. You're not going to see that on other TV shows either because other people aren't David Lynch. It's like this person's mad all TV shows aren't what they want them to be because it's got to fit their political leaning. It's like, well, I want to see more people of color dating. It's not really a problem. You're talking about such a low population. Like, go to India if you want to watch Indian films. Go to Japan if you want to watch Japanese films. I mean, it's kind of silly that you expect such a low population to be rampant in films and movies in America. It just doesn't make any sense. I don't even think it's racist slightly. It's not even saying they're inferior. It just makes no sense from a numbers point of view. Why would there be that many? There's not that many. I mean, from a numbers perspective, it's like, well, it makes no sense. You're asking for something that, like, mathematically seems a little, like, crazy. Like, on averages. It's like, well, yeah, there's more white people here, so on averages, the more talented actors and charismatic people are probably... Because there's a predominant... It's not like it's half and half. It's like there's probably the majority of actors are white people because there's so many white people. Like, so the best guys, like Aziz Ansari is really talented, he gets to have a career. But that's rare for an Indian guy because there's probably not that many Indians doing comedy and acting. Like, there's probably some, but compared to white dudes trying to make it, Jesus Christ, it wouldn't even be close. It's just a numbers thing. It's like trying to get laid. You ask a lot of girls out and eventually one of the girls likes you. Same thing. It's just numbers. It's the statistics. You seem idle to happen in those situations. They never break down the statistics, though. They're always telling some artist or someone, some common person, what they need about things. And it's like, can you give me at least some evidence here to back up some of this stuff? I just like a little bit. I'm not being a dick. I just want a little bit of, like, give me something to show the problem. Don't just, like, try to explain it to me in a condescending way where you don't really make a point. You know, your argument from emotion isn't enough for me. I don't care about your feels about Master of None and the Big Sick. Azari, a star who rose by playing silly but slightly misogynist men in projects like Funny People and Parks and Recreation, begins the second season of a show with the black and white... Oh, I already told you about this. I'm saying this whole article is just explaining so much useless shit. I swear it was paid by word count. Like, it gives you so much backstory on these fucking shows and these comedians. Part of what's ambiguous about the final shot on the look in Francesca's face as she lies next to death, perhaps, is not happily ever after ending, yet E.G. Dickinson writes at Bustle, there's also room to interpret the scene less favorably as a justification of the behavior of nice guys who feel entitled to the affection of women. Yeah. Of course, it may not have been in the intent of Asari and Master of None co-creator Alan Lang to depict the central relationship of this show as an ode to the persistence of men, but by following the lead of films made by and for straight white men, it's perhaps inevitable that Dev ends up in bed with his fantasy woman, who of course is white. I love that. So, okay, well, let me explain this to you. Okay, like, some people, they see black women, because they don't see them all the time, it's sexual. Or Latino women, or Asian women, because they don't see them all the time. But yet, if you go to Japan, everyone's Asian, so there's less of that. So let's say Aziz Ansari, to him, because his family was probably all Indian in one way, he likes how white girls look. He's sexually attracted to them. He thinks it's interesting. He likes that. That's the story he's telling emotionally. I know what they're trying to criticize him here. They're trying to say that he's talking about men's fantasies and the pixie dream girl, which is one of my most hated things. They talk about the pixie dream girl. And Zoe Kazan made a great film, wrote a great script called Ruby Sparks that breaks down the pixie dream girl wonderfully with Paul Dano. But the issue with this is, it's not that the fantasy woman is white, you moron. It's that it's this girl that means something to him as a character. You seeing it as a white woman is noticing the race. He's seeing her as her. That is art. This is very simple shit to explain. You're reading into it. Aziz makes his themes very clear, but for the most part, Master of None's a happy show about a happy guy trying to do the right thing. He wanted to be with this girl, and sometimes you lose a number. Sometimes you miss an opportunity. Maybe he'll go back to it. It's probably based off a real story. How do you know in real life he didn't meet a black girl and lose her number? So he put a real black actress in there because that's what happened. You don't get to dictate the artist's art or tell them what it means or what they should have done for your bullshit. This stuff pisses me off. Because these shows are so concise, or this movie and what they're trying to say, that when you try to, like, criticize it, it's like, well, you're going against the whole context of what the projects are. I'd agree with you if they were doing something else. But this is just word vomit to try and make some point that is non-existent, really. Instead of just stating this is how I feel, in a sense, they're trying to make some overarching point that's awful. I don't see the analogous. I don't see where they're coming from. Okay, so let's try to get to the end here. I'm not telling you, this article is absurdly long for the stuff they're talking. I mean, some of this is it's just like making the same points over and over. No doubt the reality of brown people dating white people in America is a worthy topic to explore, particularly when one of them happens to also be Muslim. Okay, so, and it's their real-life experiences and their writing, experiences that deserve to be respected and celebrated in this country, but it's also true that these stories fit into a larger social narrative of white women as the primary objects of patriarchal desire. See, that's awful. It says, why are you saying they should be respected for their real life, and then saying that these movies fit into a larger societal narrative of white women as the primary objectives of patriarchal desire? No, they don't. Nobody who goes to see these movies is going to walk out and go, well, white women are the patriarchal. If you think black women are hot, you're not going to change your mind after seeing The Big Sick. And I'm sorry, Zoe Kazan is a fucking goddess. I remember telling my friends, like, you want to see Zoe Deschanel with red hair? She's gorgeous. She's absurdly cute. She's a writer. She's wonderful. So don't give me that crap. How could you not fall in love with her? Ugh, stuff ticks me up. Like, it's so silly to care about what the skin color is in these things. It's not surprising that the film might implicitly reinforce the status quo. And this is the point of the article. They're saying, and this is how it's summarized without me going into the whole thing. Basically, white privilege still exists in multicultural relationships. In multiracial relationships. The white privilege still exists because white girls are still the object of affection for these men of color. These people of color. That's what this article's getting at. And they're projecting that object of perfection of white women. And that's the systemic problem they need to address and fix. That's basically what the article's getting at. Highlighting the beauty of white women and the appeal of quirky straight men. Yeah, because these straight guys need to be gay in these movies. Are the ones that have gotten the most funding and attention in Hollywood. In 2017, this remains a narrow path to acceptance in American mainstream media. Yes, Buzzfeed, the most accepting site there is. Okay, so goddamn, we gotta really go down. There's so much. Oh my god. The portrayal of religion through the lens of rebellious straight men also, let's see, let me get down here a little bit. They're talking about religion, but I'm not sure what the point is. I'm trying to find. I think they're criticizing. Okay, Minhaj may reject whiteness, but he still wants to be a king, or at least Jon Stewart, and the experiences of South Asian women. Again, taking a backseat only because Minhaj focused on his own heartbreak with Bethany, but also because the effects of the Islamophobia are mostly explained through jokes about him and his father, not his mother or sister, whose stories are mostly about how it helped him move forward in life. The stories that Minhaj sucks. Why are you praising this guy? He's fucking unfunny as shit. He's awful. This guy's, he's bad. He's such a tryhard. Sticking to this perspective allows them to nearly squeeze in the ideal of manhood in Hollywood, despite their skin color. They bring up Woody Allen again. In reality, the South Asian American community is certainly not immune from issues of sexism and misogyny, particularly as it relates to love, marriage, and the exceptions of family. For more evidence, see the anthology of Good Girls Marry Doctors, but it is worth noting that projects was largely avoid dealing with the specific privilege of being raised a straight South Asian Muslim man are the ones that become welcomed into Apatowian mainstream. I will say there's a point they're hinting at here, but I wish he would go into it more. It's an interesting point. They're avoiding the negative sides of Islam and these religions and misogyny from these cultures and backgrounds. They're almost acting like they're non-existent in their life. And that is something to maybe look at too. Because they clearly have had experience with that, and yet they only look at it from perspective as a victim. It's like, why doesn't Aziz Ansari have a whole bit where he talks about how... I mean, not Aziz Ansari, but Minhaj guy. Why don't he have a whole bit where he talks about how fucking retarded Islam is? Like a long one. Like, it's fucking shitty and make fun of... Like, he won't do that. You know, and it's like, well, dude, that makes you feel less real. I feel like you don't want to mock something if it feels something to you, if you have some emotional attachment. That's anti-comedy for me. I want someone to make fun of anything. If they can find the joke, if they can find the line as the athletes talk about, the special extreme sports guys. Jesus Christ, this article's fucking long. Perhaps HBO recently announced it'll be picking up the web series Brown Girls, a comedy co-created by Fatima Asghar, who is queer South Asian Muslim woman herself. Why do they seem to only care if these shows have these people and they don't care if they're good? Like, if a show was shitty, Like, the reason Master of None gets attention is because it's good. And the big... Like, you're acting like, oh, well, if a South Asian Muslim woman's in a show, it doesn't matter if it's shitty. That's not what makes stuff good or bad, you fucking idiot. Like... It's just as much as a romantic comedy as Master of None, yet it doesn't look and feels like inspired by Allen or Apatow. In fact, she places the credit for her unconventional show's success within a different lineage of representations. That of Issa Rae, whose web series The Misadventures of Awkward Black Girl led to her HBO show Insecure. Yeah, that show wasn't a big hit. What shows like Brown Girls and Insecure remind us is that there is no perfect script or representation of love, but rather an infinite number of permutations. Yes, the success affirms the audience of color crave reflections of this reality, where bromance and desire exist beyond... Well, romance, not bromance, and desire exist beyond the confines of whiteness and masculinity. Here's my problem. You're seeing it through the confines of whiteness and masculinity, interpreting the way, because you're seeing the color. And I heard someone say in the comments, I don't know if it's true that this guy is actually dating a white girl. I don't know if that's true. That I'm not confirming, but if that's true, that's hilarious. Like, if this dude has a white girlfriend and he wrote this article, that is fucking hilarious. I want that to be so true, because it would just be so funny. I'd shake his hand. I'd be like, all right, dude, you trolled a troll. I like you. I like you. We smell our own. Okay, unfortunately, it's an understanding that either still eludes most of the men in power in Hollywood, or is one they'd rather not consider. I guess. Not really. We're seeing plenty of films, Force Awakens, Rogue One even, all TV shows now, The Get Down, Atlanta. I mean... Just in the last 2 years, you're seeing producers specifically making multicultural films to get Chinese box office and Latino audiences. So that's actually not true. These shows being produced, these comedians becoming popular, them all getting movie deals. I mean, it's kind of crazy. It's like really blown up the last couple years, like The Brown Comedian. Yeah, the Fast and the Furious movies, what Marvel's doing. That final last summary is like, actually, no, it seems like Hollywood's doing exactly that. In fact, to the point that some people are complaining about it because they feel like it's pandering. Hollywood's doing exactly that because they see the market. So, no, that is a wrong assessment. But this whole white privilege still exists in these relationships. It's an insulting point because love is love. Skin color doesn't matter, and to emphasize this in the art or to really look... I'm not going to say it's racist, because I'm not going to throw it out there like that, but it's definitely insensitive, and I think a miscalculated article, because it's basically somebody doing mental gymnastics to add something that's not there, and they try to act like, oh, I'm being contextual, I get it, but not really. You may give the context, but the main point you're still making is these guys should be gay or they should be dating brown women in these things, and you want more of that, and you want there to be all these things for those audiences. It's like, well, it's happening, and until they are able to make billion-dollar movies that are the real money makers, then we'll have to wait a little bit, and there'll have to be indie films like it's always been. Not a big deal. Sorry, I just don't see the issue. I think there's much bigger issues in the world. I could give a fuck if I see two brown people fucking or dating in a movie. It's really not that important. I don't care if I see two white people. I don't care if I see two black people. If the movie's good, I don't really care. If I'm watching a movie and I like it, I don't care. If I'm watching the movie and it's not good, I don't care. So I think that's how most people are. But anyway, it's the patriarchy. Like, comment, and subscribe. Please tell me how you feel. I need to know. How affected are you by this? Are you a person of color? How do you feel like your romantic life is depicted on the televisions and the movie screen? I want to know because I care.